right, buckle up, everyone. We're diving deep today. We're heading to West Africa, to a country that's been through a lot, but is now making some pretty interesting moves. Benin.
It's a country a lot of people might not know too much about.
Exactly, and that's why we're here. We're going to try to answer a big question. Can Benin, with its partnership with China, really achieve lasting development?
It's a question a lot of folks are asking these days.
For sure. Our main source for this deep dive is a YouTube video. The title translates to something like From Idealistic Warrior to Abstract Surrender, How Hegemony Forces Good People into Prostitution.
Catchy, right?
Yeah, tells you they're not pulling any punches. It's from a channel called A Bottle Bear, and it really digs into Benin's history and its current situation.
It's a wild ride.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about unexpected leaders, political twists and turns.
And a lot of aha moments, I guarantee you that.
So let's get started. Benin, where even is it? What's the basic rundown?
Okay, so imagine like 3 Hainan islands all smushed together. That's about the size of Benin.
All right, so pretty small.
Yeah, population-wise. Think about the same as Hainan province, around 13 million.
Okay, so compact country, but we know it's got a history that's anything but small.
Oh yeah, tons of different cultures have shaped Benin. You've got 3 main ethnic groups, the Fon, the Aja, and the Yoruba.
And I remember from the video, 2 of those groups actually had their own kingdoms, right?
Exactly. The Fon had the Dahomey Kingdom and the Yoruba, the Oyo Empire. These kingdoms still have an influence in Benin today, actually.
Wow, so those historical power dynamics are still at play. And then, of course, there's the slave trade, a huge part of so many countries' histories in that region. How did that impact Benin?
Tragically, Benin's coast was even known as the Slave Coast. That's how bad it was. The slave trade really messed things up for the whole region, holding back its development for centuries.
It's a heavy legacy. The video also talks about this one guy, D'Souza, a Brazilian slave trader who actually managed to gain political power in the Dahomey Kingdom.
Yeah, it's a crazy story, this foreign trader making a fortune off of human suffering. And then he ends up in a position of authority. It shows how deeply embedded the slave trade was in the system.
And what's even wilder is his name still has influence in Benin and nearby countries. It's like the past is still very much alive. And speaking of the past, let's talk about Benin's independence. A lot of African nations had these powerful, unified struggles against colonial powers. But Benin's road to independence seems, well, different.
Yeah, it wasn't so straightforward. See, instead of uniting against France, there were these 3 main political factions, each led by a different guy. Epithy, Ahomedegbe, and Maga. They were constantly fighting each other for power.
So internal conflicts instead of a united front. Did France do anything about this or just sit back and watch the chaos?
Oh, they got involved, all right, but get this. They stepped in to mediate the conflicts. The colonial power acting as a peacemaker. Can you believe that?
Wow, that's kind of mind-blowing.
It is, and you know, that really shaped Benin's post-colonial political scene. Plus, never having that united fight for independence really impacted their sense of national identity, even today.
It makes you wonder how things might have been different. But okay, so you've got this newly independent nation grappling with its identity, a complex relationship with its former colonizer, and the weight of history on its shoulders. What happens next?
Well, things are about to get even more interesting. Enter Mathieu Kérékou. He takes power in 72, and he's ready to turn the whole system upside down.
Kérékou, the military leader, the socialist revolutionary, this is where things get really interesting. He renamed the country, nationalized industries, the whole 9 yards. Why such a drastic shift towards socialism?
Well, Kérékou had a pretty interesting background. He was a military man, of course, but he'd also been exposed to a lot of leftist thought. That definitely played a role in shaping his vision for Benin.
So he's trying to build this new Benin, but the video mentions some serious economic struggles, something about a debt trap with the IMF and rising interest rates.
Yeah, it was a rough time, balancing socialist ideals with the realities of a global economy that wasn't exactly playing fair. But one thing that really stands out from this period is Kérékou's public repentance before Archbishop D'Souza.
Hold on, wait. Kérékou, the Marxist military leader, repenting before a descendant of that slave trader we were just talking about? That's a powerful image.
It really is. It shows how these layers of history are constantly playing out in Benin. The past is never really past, is it?
Definitely not. And just when you think you've got Benin figured out, there's another twist in the story. This time, it's the rise of the Cotton King, a businessman named Talon who makes his fortune in, you guessed it, cotton.
The plot thickens.
Right. So how does this businessman end up leading the country?
It's a classic tale of ambition and opportunity. Talon was a smart guy. He saw the potential in the privatization policies under President Boni, and he used those to his advantage. He built up his wealth and used that to gain political power.
So it's like a real-life political thriller. And then the big twist, he actually manages to boost the economy and reduce corruption.
You can't make this stuff up.
Seriously. But how did he do it? What were his strategies? That's what we'll dive into next. Okay, so last we left off, we had this businessman, Talon the Cotton King, taking charge in Benin. Seems like he was pretty successful boosting the economy, tackling corruption, all that. But I'm still kind of curious, how did he actually pull that off? What was his secret sauce?
Well, one thing that really stands out is how he saw Benin's future. He knew they couldn't just keep exporting raw cotton forever. Talon wanted to make Benin into like a processing hub, add value to those raw materials right there in Benin.
Yeah, makes sense. Create jobs, boost the local economy. But it's easier said than done, right? Did he actually have a plan for this?
Oh, absolutely. They actually launched a big 5-year plan in 2021 all about this. Instead of just shipping out raw cotton, they want to make finished textiles right there in Benin. Same with cashews, pineapples, soybeans, process everything domestically.
Smart move. Makes them less reliant on those fluctuating global prices, too. But to make all that happen, you need partners, right? And that's where China comes in. The video really emphasized this growing relationship between Benin and China.
It's a big deal. We're talking infrastructure projects, support for agriculture, even a whole trade center dedicated to China-Benin trade.
Wow, so China's really going all in on this partnership. And they've actually surpassed France as Benin's main trading partner, right? It's like a whole shift in global power dynamics.
It is, and it's not just about economics for China. They're also looking to boost their global influence, present themselves as like this alternative development partner, especially for countries that haven't always had the best experiences with Western powers, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get it. It's like a new kind of development model is emerging here. And Talon seems pretty impressed with what China's accomplished.
He really does. He sees China's success as like this inspiration, proof that developing countries can really overcome poverty and make something of themselves. He's even defended China against all that negative press they get in the West.
So he's not afraid to stand up for what he believes in, even if it ruffles some feathers. Let's be real. Every rose has its thorns. What are some of the maybe not so great aspects of this deepening relationship with China?
Right. Got to look at both sides. Some folks are worried about those, classic dead crap scenarios. China's investments aren't always altruistic, let's put it that way.
Yeah, there's always that concern.
And of course, there's the environmental impact. Rapid industrialization can be tough on the environment, especially in a country like Benin that's got such rich biodiversity.
That's a good point. It's a complex situation, for sure. We've talked a bit about Talon consolidating power, but what does that mean for democracy in Benin? Is there a trade-off between economic progress and political freedom?
It's a tough question. Some argue that Talon's been a bit, well, authoritarian. But others point to his effectiveness, how he's actually getting things done. It's a debate that's going on all over the world, really. How do you balance those competing priorities?
Yeah, it's not black and white, but at the end of the day, what does all this mean for the average person in Benin? Are their lives actually getting better?
That's the million-dollar question. Early signs are promising. The economy's growing, poverty's going down. There's definitely a sense of optimism in the air.
That's good to hear, but it's important to watch how things play out long term. It's not just about GDP, it's about making sure those benefits are shared by everyone, that human rights are protected, and that the environment isn't trashed in the process.
Exactly. And that brings us back to our original question, right? Can Benin, with China's help, actually achieve sustainable development? I think the potential is there, but it's going to take careful planning, transparency, and a real commitment to putting the people of Benin first.
It's a tightrope walk, for sure, and we'll keep exploring this as we dig deeper into the specifics of this partnership. So we've been talking about this whole Benin-China thing, and it's pretty clear there's a lot going on. They're trying to grow the economy, but do it in a way that's, good for people and the planet, all while navigating this whole new world of South-South cooperation. It's a lot. But what I'm really wondering is, what does it all mean in the bigger picture? Like, how does what's happening in Benin fit into what's going on in Africa and globally?
Oh, that's a big question, but I think it's a really important one. Benin's kind of like a microcosm of what's going on in a lot of places. You've got the growing influence of developing countries, the search for new ways to do development, and all these complex partnerships popping up. If Benin can really pull this off, if they can make this China thing work and achieve actual sustainable development, it can have a huge impact, like inspire other countries to try something similar.
Yeah, it's like they're setting a new example, kind of testing out a new playbook for development. Like that partnership between Benin and Niger to export oil through Benin's port, that seemed like a pretty innovative move.
Absolutely. That's a perfect example of how everyone can benefit. Niger gets their oil to market, Benin gets to be a bigger player in the region, and China strengthens its ties with both countries. It's a total win-win-win. And it really challenges the old way of doing development, the one where Western countries kind of called all the shots and often attached all sorts of conditions to their aid.
Yeah, I was like, we'll help you, but only if you do things our way. This feels different. But okay, let's bring it back to our listener for a second. Why should they care about what's happening halfway across the world in Benin? What are the main takeaways here?
Well, I think there are a few big things to remember. First off, the world's changing. The old power dynamics are shifting. Things aren't what they used to be. China's rising. Developing countries are having a bigger say in things. And Benin's right there in the thick of it.
It's a good reminder that we got to stay open to new possibilities. What else?
Another big takeaway, Benin's showing us that you got to adapt, got to be creative. They're not just sitting back and waiting for someone else to tell them what to do. They're taking charge, building new partnerships, and coming up with some pretty outside-the-box solutions. It's a good lesson for any country, big or small.
Don't be afraid to shake things up a bit. What's the third thing our listeners should take away from all this?
Collaboration. Benin's proving that when countries work together, when they share their knowledge and respect each other, they can achieve a lot more.
Totally. It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Benin's definitely choosing to go far, and they've got China along for the ride. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one question you want to leave our listeners with?
That's a good one. I'd ask them to think about this. What other success stories are we missing? Benin and China, that's just one example. There are probably tons of other unexpected partnerships popping up all over the world. What can we learn from them? How are they changing the future of global development?
That's a great question to ponder, and it reminds us that there's always something new happening, some new possibility emerging. The future is not set in stone. Thanks for coming along with us on this deep dive into Benin. It's been a wild ride, that's for sure. We've learned about their history, their political ups and downs, their economic experiments, and their role in this whole new world of development. So keep asking questions, keep exploring, and keep your eyes open for those unexpected success stories. Until next time, everyone.